know me, I'm Bruce's sister, the only sister, Vanessa. And thank you all for coming today. Today is all about Bruce. The man whom we affectionately call Brucey, Monster Bruce, BB, the tomato sauce monster, Spunky, Badger, David Bruce, my darling, my love, my hottie, my sweetheart, and most important, Dad. Today is also about surrounding his beautiful and very brave children, Cameron and Brittany, with our love and special memories of their dad. What a privilege it was for me and Julian to spend time with you in Johannesburg this last week. Wow, and watch you stand proud and navigate this devastating and sad time. How proud Bruce would have been of both of you, and how proud we are too. We love you, Cam and Britt. Life isn't meant to be lived perfectly. It is meant to be lived boldly, wildly, beautifully, imperfectly, magically, and wow, did Bruce live. Today's tributes come with parental guidance warning of 25 years of age. Sex, nudity, language, and more language. So please block your ears if you need. You will cry, you will laugh, and that's okay, as that's how Bruce lived. Bruce started life in a shoebox. He was a tiny little chap and had to be fed 3 hourly. He grew and grew and grew to a strapping height of 6'4". Despite hiding his mushy vegetables in my doll's pram, eating boarding school food, and even eating his first girlfriend. She was Dolly the sheep at Western Agricultural College. School wasn't his favourite pastime, although he did opt for 2 matrics. His story was that he wanted a better matric result. The real story is that one of his teachers was a real hottie, and he was in love with her. Holidays for Bruce were mandatory, not an annual event, but a monthly or quarterly occurrence. Our special Grosvenor, the Berg, Knysna, Dullstroom, the Bush, all held a very special place for Bruce in his heart. Our late mother, who passed away 7 months ago, wrote in her journal, "A special boy with a special bond to me, a fine, young, mischievous man, full of kindness, a hard-working, happy businessman, an excellent sportsman, tennis and golf player, and generous to a fault. All the ladies love him, especially his mom." Bruce always wanted to win, always competitive, always engaged in everything. But am I really mad at Bruce because he won this race to see our wonderful parents before us? And anyway, Bruce hugged them tightly and loved them from us earthlings. Childhood with our brother Bruce was never without excitement, hidings, and mischievousness. A naughtier human you could not find, but lovable, wonderful, and someone who loved so dearly and gave so generously. A man who would give his last dime to a homeless soul. A man with a penchant for animals, and a man who we will miss fiercely. Stories, and lots of them, you will hear today, but heed my earlier PG warning, 25 years and older. So in the end, it's not the years in your life that count. It's the life in your years, the life in your years. Your 56 years were sure well lived. So, to my special brother, keep loving and laughing and crying. You will always be loved. You will always be remembered. And as I said to our late parents when saying our goodbyes, I say to you, Bruce, soar with the angels, farewell, fair man, farewell, great man of the universe, farewell and rest in peace. And now I'm going to have Bruce's beautiful daughter Brittany join us, and Cameron.
Hello everyone. On the 20th of July at 8 p.m. with a feeling of desperation, I made my way down to my crew cabin to answer a call that had been apparently waiting for me. I sat in my crew cabin for hours after that, looking at Reese and waiting for him to tell me that it's not true. I always felt like days being at anchor and not being able to go very far. I thought to myself, I wish I could ask him a short 3-worded question. I'm then boarding my second flight in Italy on the way home to South Africa. Cam and I were on a call. We got worked up about some things. We decided it was tomorrow's mission and we hung up. And then I went to call you, Dad, only to look at your name on WhatsApp and think, fuck, you're the person we're getting worked up about and you've gone. And those 3 words came back to my mind. So here they are, Dad. From me to you, in true Bruce Truscott style. What the fuck? Dad had a heart attack, and although he was strong enough to convince me every day he was okay after his stem procedure just a month before, and maybe that he was just a little too tired, he wasn't. 2 nights before he left us, we spoke on the phone and we were both batting ideas around. He had found a 3-bedroom apartment in Mshoti. He had said, Britty, we should buy it together. Let's make this our mission, so that when I was home from the yacht, I had a home. And when he came down to visit Cam and Kirst's baby, he would have a home to be in, and all together we would essentially have a place to stay in. There was never a shortfall of ideas with Dad, nor dreams and goals. And anything Cam and I could have put our mind to, Dad was included. Dad, you were known as Shrek, sometimes Bruce for serious effects, and for almost too long as an adult kid, my daddy Bruce. We will never forget the man who was larger than life. I've never met a man who poured more positivity over and into everything. You were a dreamer and a bloody hopeless romantic. You were an amazing tennis player and became the most amazing businessman. There were no problems big enough in life that were enough to stop him, only that the show had to go on. And I'm not speaking about the strip shows. I'm speaking about life, that full adventure you lived in your short 56 years. Dad, I've listened to almost every one of your voice notes. There is not one voice note that starts miserably. You were always happy, even when you were so deeply sad and heartbroken. I'm going to miss the hello my Britty boo or your hello Brittany and Bon when I hadn't responded for too long. It didn't matter who you were, what you looked like. Bruce somehow greeted everyone with that smile of his and supported and included everyone in his decisions and in need, even when he had nothing. Missing Bruce was a very normal feeling for Cam and I's relationship. We got so good at hellos and distance because we had to, but you, Dad, you never got good at goodbyes. In fact, you were horrendous at them. We would get to the hugging stage, let alone out the car, and your tinted sunglasses were on, and your cheeky I'm okay words came with your smile. But that's not what this was about. Dad was based in Joburg, but still made his way down to us once a month. And when things got better, Cam and I would start to fly up what felt like every month. He was there for our first days of school, grade 11 dances, matric dances, fashion shows, university graduations, and without a doubt, our birthdays, even if it meant the weekend after or before. He was our biggest supporter. Dad spoilt us rotten when he could, and when he couldn't afford to give us just 50 Rand one month, he would be there the next month with the extra 50 Rand. He believed in any business idea, and when things got better and better, he took risks with us. Dad, you took us on holidays that were ordinary to the world, but simply extraordinary to us, and I know a lot of special people in this room would agree. Our place was Port Grosvenor down in the Truscott, a small part of the world that often felt like home. Because that's where all our quality time was spent. And although we would come back burnt as a tomato, with more freckles much to Mom's disgrace, she also knew just how special this place was. And Mom, we're so thankful you never held us back. Our memories there are nothing but dull, and it's hard to believe that just 3 months ago, we arrived at the turn-off and there you were, waiting for us with the cold castle lights, for probably too long because you were never late. I am so grateful we did it all. The sunrises, the sunsets, the beach days and slow college mornings with coffee and a rusk on the concrete pipe. Late night conversations by the fire, watching the stars like we did when we were little. You taught Reese how to play backgammon, and Chris was there with her baby bump too. Dad, you even made it to Waterfall Bluff and the pools. Thank goodness for your new 2 knees. What we didn't know is this would be our last time there with you. But it was also the first time I had taken a boyfriend with me in 28 years, and that felt special. The man Dad referred to as young man Reese. Dad, you had some questionable things to say to this man, one of them being when he was saying goodnight to you. Reese, young man, make you Hefner proud tonight like I would. Reese wasn't sure if this was a test. He wasn't sure if this was a test or a bet, but from that day, Reese learned shortly that Dad was a lot less like Liam Neeson from Taken, as I had described him, and a lot more like himself. They often say a daughter will marry someone like their father, and while that makes me bloody nervous, it also makes me feel safe. You shared a closeness with him that I'm grateful for, and although we were stressed about not finding a job for the last 4 months home, we also got to spend a lot more time with you, Dad, all of which we won't forget. Dad, this was a shock, and maybe too soon, but your family has made you proud. Vanessa, Auntie, and Jules, thank you for forming a bomb squad and flying into Joburg and being on the ground for Cam and I. This last week has been a lot. As 2 young adults, some of these things have felt impossible to even think about, and we wouldn't have been able to do it without you guys and tick off the boxes we did. To Ingrid and Fani, who aren't with us today, Ingrid for the past 10 years, and Fani for the full 30 years you worked for Dad, thank you for keeping his legacy going right now. To our Monster Bruce group, who coordinated today, Mooks, Mandy, Jono, Mom, Devin, Tay, we are so grateful. None of today would be happening without you, and of course to everyone who showed up for Dad today. To Dad, I promise to be there for Cam, and Cam and I together will make you proud, as we promised you on Monday. Live that other 54 years of life you promised us. Be the naughty grandpa you were so excited to be. And lastly, let that heart of yours rest and heal. I promise to do everything we set out to do, and I promise inevitably that I will not stop thinking of you and loving you. I love you, Daddy Bruce, and I'm going to miss you.
Hello everyone. Thanks for everyone making an effort to be here tonight. Today. Bruce was my dad. He was my friend, my teacher. Just wanted to say thanks for everything. What he gave us. He hustled a lot for us, and I respect that. My relationship with my dad was pretty simple. It was at a place called Grosvenor. That's the place where we would spend hours just in the bay swimming, riding waves, getting burned, sipping castle lights at 10 o'clock in the morning, talking shit all day. Talking about cars and what car he's going to buy next, or bonfires, fishing at Square Hole, riding our bikes, playing backgammon, and planning ways to make a good living. What you told me will be passed down to my child, which is pretty crazy because my child was due on the 23rd of September, and it turns out that was the same day that he was christened, which is nuts. I don't know where you are now, but I do know you'll be smiling over us, and I know we've made you proud. Your positive and persistent attitude has rubbed off onto me and my sister, and this is one last promise: we'll make you proud. Thanks, Dad. Fucking love you, man. Where's this?
We're now going to have Punch, who's Bruce's godfather and our uncle.
Good afternoon, Bruce and the family's friend. Came as a very great shock to us to hear that Bruce had passed away. Thank you so much for joining the family this afternoon to say a last farewell to Brucey, who has been taken at such a young age from us. Before I say any more, I'd like to just say to Cameron and Brittany and Vanessa, thank you for those really wonderful words that you have spoken about your dad and about Bruce. And as I was listening to the talks, I was thinking, well, you know, I've got a problem because they've said most of what I wanted to say. I've got a few stories about Bruce. He was an exceptional young guy, and when I say exceptional, he was an exceptional guy. He just made a room light up when he walked in, always. Bruce was my nephew and my godson. The godson side of it is an area that I failed badly in. However, my lack of attention, he still turned out very well, and we were very firm friends. Bruce and I had a lot of fun together. I once took him with me. He was staying up in Coxton, and we had a very large tractor and implement demonstration, and we needed someone to fetch and carry it for us. I said to Bruce, can you drive? Oh, no problem. He went straight into a bloody tree with me. He had never driven a vehicle in his life. Bruce was the second child of Judy and Dave Truscott, both whom have recently passed on. His siblings were, as we know, Vanessa, the eldest, and Julian, the youngest. Bruce's mother, Judy, always described him as nothing but a little hellion. I think he was naughty from the day, in fact, that he was conceived. And that was not far from the truth. But with all that, I'd say that Brucey, one of his great things was that he treated his mother absolutely fantastically throughout his life. He cared for Judy like, and with no disrespect to Vanessa and the rest of them, he looked after her and was keen on her welfare more than anyone else that I knew, or Trish knew. Everybody that knew Bruce loved him with a passion. He was extremely kind and generous to everyone that crossed his path. And Bruce also had the two children, Cameron and Brittany. And above all, and I have no doubt in saying this, he loved them most of all. Although due to circumstances, they generally lived far apart. Bruce in Johannesburg and Durban, where Cameron and Brittany lived with their mother, Simone, in Durban. They have both been really wonderful children to them, and it's a great credit to Simone that she, as their mother, kindled that love that they had for their father, although Bruce and Simone had chosen different paths. For this, I would like to thank Simone from the very bottom of my heart. To have brought up two wonderful children that made Brucey extremely proud was no mean feat. At the same time, Bruce, I know, made every attempt to spend time with the children, and I have no idea as to how many kilometres Bruce travelled from Johannesburg to Durban to spend time with them. He never, ever shirked his responsibility to them. He was a wonderful father, and as Simone was a really, really wonderful mother. I must say now, because the question of the number of girlfriends comes into this, Simone was number one. Bruce had one flaw, or maybe two or three. As a youngster, he was an extremely good tennis player and won a number of tournaments. This, unfortunately, brought the bad part of his makeup to light. Things were about to change. He came up to the beautiful Edgecombe area to play in the Crossroads tennis tournament near Cedarville. And as fate would have it, my late father, also Bruce, was playing in the finals. Also Bruce owned the company who sponsored the tournament. Well, young Bruce was playing in the finals and playing extremely well. But slowly his opponent got the measure of him and won the day. Bruce hated to lose, and his temper got the better of him, and he smashed his racket on the ground and broke it into two pieces. That occasion changed his life and seating ability forever. His grandfather, my father, who was also an avid sportsman and an absolute gentleman in the field of play, was totally mortified. The way home from Cedarville to Coxstad was extremely frosty. Not a word passed in the car that afternoon, and on arrival in Coxstad, my dad very calmly told Bruce to go and wait in the bedroom. He was left to sweat for about half an hour, and eventually Dad went in to join him. We outside knew what the inevitable was going to be. After a lengthy lecture on sportsmanship, there was an eerie silence, and then all hell broke loose. Brucey got the thrashing of his life, one that he would never, ever forget. He exited the room at high speed, but was called back and received a few more lashes for not saying thank you after the first round. I know that never ever did he lose his temper on the tennis court again. Bruce and I had lengthy discussions in later years about that thrashing, and comparing notes, and I too had received many of the accurate strokes he had received that day. However, I have no doubt that I was beaten in that round. His was worse than I had ever received. And I must add that Brucey, despite everything, and what I'm saying now goes quite deep, he was, without any doubt, the apple of his grandfather's eye. My dad, his grandfather, loved him, and I know that that hiding was that severe because of that love that he had for Bruce. In all other respects, Bruce was a gentleman. He treated all the ladies and girls in our family with the greatest love and kindness, was never nasty to any of them, and as such, they loved him as much as he loved them. He was never nasty, never ever nasty, and always took the underdog's side. This went a bit further, as never in my life have I known another guy who had as many girlfriends as he did. He was the wonder, I'm telling you. Plus, they were also the most beautiful girls. and Simone, the most beautiful of all of them, and lovely ladies. He had so many over the years that I eventually gave up trying to remember their names, and I finally used the numerical system, and the last one was number 16. And eventually, without doubt, I obviously missed a few out. Another short story which brings his great mate, Jono, into the picture. Now, let me tell you that Jono and Bruce were remarkable. They could do things that I never dreamt were possible. And I was also bloody naughty when I was a kid, but they made me look like an amateur. A short story that, although not quite the correct thing to do, we always found very amusing. One weekend, many years ago, we went to spend a weekend with Dave and Judy in Westville. On arrival at about 11 o'clock in the morning, Brucey was dressed in a suit and looking very, very spirited. He was off to a wedding with his great pal and neighbour, Jono. The natural question was, who is getting married? The answer, I don't know. Next question, how come you don't know? Answer, well, we drive around looking for weddings in the smarter parts of Durban. And when a home appears, or a club, we just join the crowd and take part in the festivities. Drink the beer, eat the peanuts, and if the snacks were up to scratch, we ate the snacks as well. Obviously, they worked on the principle that the bride and family would assume that they were friends of the groom and family, and vice versa. When things got a little bit hot in the kitchen and discovery was imminent, they would move quietly out and look for the next venue. This would carry on all afternoon until they were overflowing with beer. Brucey maintained that you had to be very disciplined with your consumption and to know when you had really had enough. And when 10 or more people started looking at you sideways, fortunately I don't think they were ever caught. And I hope there's no one from the CID here today, because John is sitting right over there. I don't know for how long this caper carried on, but Jono will do interviews later and give you the finer details. Jono was Brucey's best mate, and they were still the very best of friends. If ever a conversation came up with Brucey and his friends, Jono was the number one. Sorry, my thumbs are really out of control. There are many, many more stories that could be told about his business in Johannesburg, where he was extremely successful. His times at Lambazi, down on the Wild Coast, with his grandparents, with us, with his mom and dad, with his siblings, were always very, very well spent. Brucey loved fishing, he loved surfing, but he never partook in them to a really heavy degree, because at Lambazi there were always somewhere under the trees or in the water a beautiful girl. So his fishing just became second-rate stuff. He loved his fellow men tremendously. And the mischief he got up to, I can only tell you those couple of stories, otherwise I could be here all afternoon. We will remember him as a fun-loving guy, a gentleman, a father, but above all for his love and care of Dave and Judy, and his loyalty to his friends, his kindness to everyone that crossed his path, his love for Cameron and Brittany. He was a man amongst men. All I can say is rest in peace, my boy. As much as you loved, you were loved in return.
I'm Greg, one of Bruce's friends from early days Westville. We were in the army together. He was my best man at my wedding. We had some incredible stories. Brucey would never forget my birthday or my wife's birthday every year without a fact. Didn't matter what happened, he would phone us on our birthday. He was incredible. He was such a good friend, and we were so naughty in army together. I mean, some of the stories I could tell you, I've said to him that those stories go to our grave with us, because the mischief we got up to on some of those trips were unbelievable. Just some of the stories, we were fortunate enough to do some township duty in army down in Port Elizabeth. So we were sent down to Port Elizabeth, and Bruce had a little white Ford Cortina station wagon, and we were allowed to take a vehicle down there because we were lieutenants at that stage. So we jumped in the car, our R5's in the car. We had Bruce's paddle ski and my surfboard, and we shot off down to Port Elizabeth, and we pulled in there and we started our township duty. Well, we were on duty for 12 hours, we were off duty for 12 hours, and we were on standby for 12 hours. So in between the off duty and the standby, we would duck off to Jeffreys Bay and we would go and surf, and we'd go and party and go crazy. And the major couldn't understand why we had so much energy after being on duty at night for 12 hours. And we were on patrol in the townships there, and we had set up a little sort of HQ out in the township with our troops and all the rest of it. But what we did is we used to sleep at night. So we put up a troop in one of the vehicles, and he would keep watch for anybody that was coming. But unfortunately, he fell asleep that night, and the major paid us a visit. And we were all almost slightly sent to DB. We went, well, vehicles, car keys were taken away, and all the rest of it. But Brucey could always organise something. And when he was going out with Paula Price in the early days, she broke up with him, and he was so upset that I had to actually stop him from jumping the fence and AWOLing down to Maritzburg to go visit her and try and make it up with her. But yeah, he was a man's man. He loved the woman. I mean, but one thing I'll say for Bruce is when he went up with the woman, he was 100% faithful to them. That was one thing about Bruce. When he was going out with a girl, he would never ever two-time her or anything like that. He was incredibly loyal to whoever he was going out with, but Ali had a lot of them. Just to the rest of the Truscott family, I had the incredible fortunate to go down to Grosvenor with Bruce, and he came up to the farm, and about a year or two ago he surprised me for my birthday on the farm. We live up on the Camberg there, and he came and he surprised me on my birthday. I was lying in bed in the morning, and he came through with my tea and my rusk in the morning. And as Bruce, you know, he was larger than life. Hey, fucker, what are you doing? Get out of bed! Fuck you lying around for. But yeah, no, he was an incredible friend. He just loved Judy and Dave. I mean, I just remember those early days at their place in Westville with Julian and you kids. He was absolutely besotted with you guys. So, and to the rest of the Truscott family and all the family and friends, rest in peace, Bruce, we love you.
Jono is going to try and say a few words. I will read the rest of his speech. He's recently had his 8th surgery. He's a cancer survivor. But he's going to try his best to say a couple of words, but people battle to actually understand him, so I'll do the rest for him.
Thanks, Leon. Hanshi, I don't know where the story came from. It wasn't me. I just want to say hello to 2 people that are watching overseas. Arnie, hello, Roy, you're in Canada, and to Philip van Dijk, who's in the UK, and host SSG that are watching. So hello, guys. To the whole family, the kids, and all their friends, business, Alex, and to Stacey, bless you. We're all here, and Bruce, and I'm not going to apologise for those who don't know Ian is Cindy. Bruce and I were diagnosed with Tourette's syndrome at a very young age, so it's actually a disease, so I'm sorry. Bruce, you cocky, you slut-horse, on a fucker. 43 years of friendship. Fuck me, what a journey.
Bruce and Jono are actually 9 days apart in their birthdays as well. Okay, I'm going to read it as per Jono. We were in Standard 5 and had a meeting at Westport Boys High and our paths crossed. Not sure that was a good thing, but hey, it lasted. We have laughed, cried, drank a few times only, loved, worked and celebrate life, which we live to its fullest. We split up in Standard 8 when Bruce went to Western for all of his good behaviour. Finished school. We tried to study social science. We got doctorates in social. I can't remember what happened to the science. We then went on to the army, and then we connected again. It was like we were never apart. We were barmen at the Westville Hotel. And that's when we said we'd work smart and we'll always make a plan for money, no matter what, so that we could play harder. And plans did we make. Whether it was one special coin we jippoed to keep the lights on at the squash courts, or the 50 beers we rang up in happy hour. And then taking the money for them later at full price and keeping the difference. I went on to do my hotel training and you became the doorman and had the best forehand PK in the business due to all your beloved tennis. Then we moved on to home improvements at Progress Guttering, and boy did we sell. Even to get the 10 sales in a weekend incentive, we found a way for that poor soul in Wentworth that got new gutters and then had to pay. Laugh out loud. But we got the cash for the incentive. The truth is we said we would always make a plan, the truth is we said we'd always make a plan for money, and we did. And boy did we play hard. We also said bros before hoes, and we stuck to that for 43 years, as we did have one or plenty of girlfriends. But we made life amazing. From our many nights at, I don't know, some of these places, Casador, late night jigs, Legends, Musgrave at 4 AM, or the sloppy McDougall's Burger extra sauce down on West Street. We made money and spent it, but we were living. We lived together many times, and that's where you met Simone, who had your 2 beautiful children, Cam and Britty, who changed your life. You left us in Durban for Joburg and made your life there. You had many businesses and still found a way of making extra money, breeding snakes with Cleopatra. She was gorgeous. That 4.5 metre fat Burmese python, you gave me her firstborn Tigger, the albino, and she grew up to just over 4 metres and sold the other 30-odd offspring. You were coaching tennis and I was at Famous Brands, living in Fourways. I, Jaden, and we were 2 men and a baby. Well remember his first word. said fuck, and then they said duck. However, the more they told him it was duck, the more he said fuck. And I can vouch because Moz, Jono's first wife, second wife, used to always laugh and tell that story about Jaden going fuck, and she would try to say fuck, and it just would not stick. Jaden is here at the back as well today. You came home from coaching and said you were going to start selling grass. I immediately said, great, so we can also smoke it there. Only to find out, only to learn it was tough turf. And Alex had said, take Joburg and see. I remember a lady coming to get 2 meters from you for her dog. I laughed. And you taught me that all the little bits add up to big bits. All business is important. As she was the CEO of Prime Media, and you got the contract for Supersport, from just that 2 meters of grass. So thank you for the lessons. Yes, you taught me some amazing lessons. And things we use in life, like remembering people's names. I got that right, but how you remembered everyone's birthdays and called them every single year on the right day and always wrote a card or a message, I will never get right. You always found time to meet with family and friends, whether you were traveling or on holiday. You took time to go out and to meet and speak to them. Even at your beloved Grosvenor, we went from cottage to cottage and chatted to everyone. You were unbelievable, and I always tried to learn from this. We were the big guys, sometimes larger than life, yet our hearts were bigger and softer than a teddy bear. Your love for animals, people, and life, and the way you cared for them are unmatched. You gave of yourself to help others, which I only admired. I'm going to miss our chats every morning on the way to work or home in the evening. We chatted for hours in confidence in each other's businesses, relationships, and life in general. My boy, what an innings. Raise your bat. You lived a life people only envied. All your travels and holidays, from the ocean to the mountains to the bush, you loved them all. Soar with the eagles in the mountains. Swim with your dolphins and whales in the sea. And walk with your animals in the bush till we meet again. P.S. Hope you don't get too much shit from Judy. I'm sure she said fat man when she saw you out there. All my love, Jonathan. And when I did not listen, Jonathan, when I did not listen, which was often, and cocky when we were naughty, most of the time. I will always love you, my China.
Hi everyone. As you know, I'm Judy and Bruce's brother. Wow, who would have thought we'd be celebrating Bruce's life so early? Just a few weeks ago we were in the Berg, drinking beer, playing golf and talking shit together. I have a few stories to tell, but before I do that, I'd just like to say a big thank you to all of you for coming to celebrate Bruce's life. I think that the turnout shows how much he was really loved. I know it would mean so much to him to see so many of his friends here, old and new. And some of you have travelled far to get here, and we really, really appreciate it. I'd also like to thank everyone who pulled together to organise this so quickly and professionally. Mooks for finding the venue, Jono and Manny for being on the ground and helping with this event, Simone for the beautiful flowers, and Tay and Devlin for the slideshow. Okay, now for some memories of Bruce. Sure, the stuff that I could tell you that I can't tell you, so I'll try to keep it a bit clean. All of us knew that Bruce was naughty, but he was a nice naughty. He was never any bad intentions in what he did. He was kind, he was generous, and as you all know, he fell in love far too easily. I don't think I know anyone else who has had as many girlfriends as Bruce had. Like Pat said in his speech, we eventually started numbering them because it was just like, you couldn't remember the name, so it's number 15 or number 17 or at a young age, I remember Bruce and I playing catch in our bedroom. Bruce's bed was next to the window and mine was next to the wall. And of course, Bruce being a little bit older than me and a bit smarter than me at that stage, we would be throwing the ball to each other, and he'd eventually start throwing it at me like really hard, because he knew that eventually I wouldn't be able to catch it, and then I'd get crossed and throw it back at him. And invariably I'd break the window behind him because he'd deliberately not catch it, which would then end up with both of us getting out him. Geez, I still remember this day so clearly, like it was yesterday. We were both standing naked in the bedroom when we were both young, and we were giving each other bacon slices with rulers. And this was something we used to do quite often. I don't know why, but it was just a stupid kid thing. And the one day I got clever, and Dave had my father Dave had a metal ruler. And Bruce didn't realise that I had a metal ruler, and I gave him a bacon slice, like a proper one that he actually played. And honestly, that was the last time that he actually that we played that game, because he beat me up after that. And then Bruce, short this story. Yeah, this one's maybe a little bit naughty, but anyway. So Bruce, we had our neighbour Phil van Dijkville. Phil, we know you're watching from overseas. You'll remember this, I hope. I don't know how old I was, but I was pretty young. Bruce and Phil were most probably like 14 or 15, so I must have been 11 or 12. And yeah, so Bruce, Phil, our neighbour, and I breaking into, and when I say breaking into, I mean me being told to climb through the burglar bars and unlock the front door of one of our neighbours' houses. The reason for this was that they were the only people in our neighbourhood with a VHS tape machine. And Bruce and our neighbour Phil had gotten hold of a porno movie called Love Boat, and they wanted to watch it. So needless to say, I got a full sex education lesson that day, and we just managed to get out of the house before the neighbours came home. I mean, there's another time I still remember, I haven't put it in my speech, but I think I'm going to tell it now, because Bruce, Phil and I were watching pornos in our house, and I was still very young, and I made Alexia walk into the lounge. And at that stage we had our VCR machine, and you've never seen three boys dive for a stop button on a VHS machine as fast as we did. Needless to say, I'm sure Alexia saw what we were watching, but she never told us, so we got away with it. The story that I didn't know about until this morning, and Vanessa told me, Bruce and Phil making petrol bombs in the garage, and then proceeding to burn down Phil's garden shed, which apparently was like a massive fire. Driving down the M19 highway behind Westville when they were building it in Phil's car, doing handbrake turns. I mean, they were only like 14 or 15 years old, I was maybe 12, and just doing crazy stuff like that. There's just so many memories. And then the one memory that really sticks in my mind, and this was crazy, was when Bruce was about 20 and I was about 17. Bruce, Phil, our neighbour, Phil, you're a... yeah, it was crazy. Bruce, Phil, our neighbour, Dean, a friend of mine from school, and I all went out clubbing in Durban. Dean and I went to one club and Bruce and Phil went to another, and they picked us up later at about 12 or 1 in the morning to go home. Bruce being Bruce, there were now 2 girls riding along with us. You know, typical him, he was always the one that could find them, and we were the ones that couldn't find them. So on the way home we decided to stop and get some food at a corner takeaway. Phil parks in the corner and we jump out and we go up the stairs to order, and while we're inside this takeaway place, a yellow cop van comes and parks behind us, like right behind Phil's car. So anyway, we get our food, we jump in the car, all of us now is me, Phil, Bruce, the 2 girls and my friend Dean, and Phil turns to Bruce and he says, "Hey Badger, is there anyone fucking behind us?" And Bruce doesn't even look, he just says, "Nah, there's nobody there." Phil had a, I think it was a BMW 323 or something, and he just puts this thing in reverse and he just floors it. And reverses, like smashes into this bloody cop van. So now we're like, oh my god, so we all turn around and we look, and we're just like, oh shit, this is cuck. And Phil just drops the clutch and we go, and this cop van is chasing us through Durban, and we're ducking and diving, and luckily they were in one of those like yellow vans and Phil had like a decent car, so eventually like we got away from them. But now we're trying to negotiate, like, how are we going to get out of Durban? Because obviously they're going to radio and like killing other cop cars. What are we going to do? I don't know who decided, but we ended up down at the point on the beach. We drove the car onto the beach. We got the car stuck. Eventually managed to get it out and then took back roads and managed to get home. But like, I mean, it was crazy and shame. I mean, those two girls that Bruce had picked up. I don't really remember what happened to them, but I felt really sorry for them. It was crazy. Yeah, Brucey boy, shit. No, Brucey boy, Badger, Inti, as my grandfather used to call him. You were taken from us once, yeah. We got to miss you so much, but we'll never forget you. Cheers, Lachana, I love you. Thanks everyone so much for coming. And now, time to have some drinks and get the celebration going and give Bruce a proper send-off, because we know that's what you all want. There's an open bar, as you know, and full food will be brought out shortly. And can everyone please stand up and just raise a glass to Bruce. To Bruce. Cheers, guys, and thanks so much for coming.